So May, June 2015. Question 1. What need not pose a potential threat to allocative efficiency in a market? Externalities externalities do pose a threat, so you can cross that out. Um, Different monopolistic elements definitely do pose a threat, so you can cross that out. Differential products also pose a threat because if you think about it, what happens with differentiated products, if you would go along and draw the diagram for your monopolistic competition as opposed to perfect competition, price increases and output decreases, quantity rather, and hence you move off your price equals to MC point. So allocative efficiency is threatened. Perfect knowledge only helps. I mean, it won't really threaten allocative efficiency. Might just help it. In fact, especially in the with regards to the actual benefits, the true benefits of merit and demerit goods. So you can take that. 2, a utility maximizing consumer spends the whole of his disposable income of $40 on food and clothing. The table shows the price of food and the quantity purchased by the consumer and the marginal utility he derives from food consumption. His marginal utility from clothing is 2 units. What is the price of clothing per unit? Well, price will obviously be per unit, and quantity purchased by the consumer. Okay, so if you think about this, if he's utility maximizing, so he is uh you know at operating at consumer equilibrium, where the marginal utility per price for both products should be the same. So we know the marginal utility of food, that is 10. The quantity won't really matter in this case, but the price per unit is 5. This is basically 2, and the marginal utility of clothes upon the price of clothes also has to give you a ratio of 2. The marginal utility is the marginal utility is 2. So the price for clothes has to it has to give you the price for clothes should be 1 then, I believe. Yeah, because just solve this. I don't know why I got stuck there. So marginal utility was 2. That's given to you in the question. So you just input that. Price for clothes goes here. 2 upon 2 is 1. You can simply take this. You don't really need to worry about quantity because there was just one particular price that was one that had 1. Anyhow, for the purposes of measuring the income effect of a change in the price of a good, what is not held constant? Consumer preferences are held constant. The money income is supposed to be held constant. Relative prices, I believe, also are held constant. However, the real income is not held constant, because if you think about it, the income effect comes about by a change in real income. And a change in real income is bound to happen because, well, you're looking at a change in the price of a good. When the price of a good changes, you can either buy more or less of it. So the real income would vary. You can't hold that constant. If you hold real income constant, you won't have any income effect. So you can't even see the income effect. The diagram shows the total product of labor curve for a firm whose only variable factor input is labor. What explains the shape of the curve? So diminishing marginal distributivity, well, distributivity doesn't have things to do here because that would link with the supply curve of labor. Increasing marginal, I don't know why are they talking about distributivity here. Anyhow, technical diseconomies of scale, you can't really look at to scale here because you're, well, because when you're thinking of stuff to scale, and Shayar can hopefully confirm this, you're going to be increasing or decreasing all of your factors of production, not just your variable factors, and then you're going to be looking at your output, right?
And in fact, जो D में law of variable proportions है, that is your law of diminishing marginal returns. Na? So that makes sense.
Yeah, so and D makes sense as well. But Shaya, can you just quickly confirm with increasing returns to scale or decreasing returns to scale, which obviously then links to economies or diseconomies of scale. We're going with increasing or decreasing returns to scale. We look at varying all of the factors of production, right? Because then you're in the long run where you can
Okay,
vary
in the
all of the
short term, you
factors.
can't really have economies or diseconomies of scale. Now, for this to happen, you need to increase or decrease all your inputs.
Yeah, yeah, makes sense. And you can do so because then that's why it only happens in the long run, where you can actually vary all your inputs because all inputs are variable. A firm operates under perfect competition in both product and factor markets, with labor as the only variable factor input. In the diagram, the line JK, just kidding, shows the just a sec. JK shows the relationship between the MPP of labor and the hours worked, and it shows how the MPP is decreasing as you work more hours. Okay, the price of the product is 1.60, and the firm uses 3,000 hours of labor. What is the hourly wage? Just a sec. Sorry about that. Anyhow, um, so you know that it uses 3,000 hours. So the MPP is like um 4, and if you want to calculate your MRP, that would be 4 into 1.6,
6.4,
which is how much?
6.4.
6.4. And are we correct to say, since it operates in perfect competition in both product and labor markets, so it would produce still MRP is equals to MC, and the marginal cost of the additional cost of hiring another unit of labor, which is your marginal cost, is really your wage rate. So MRP is equals to your wage rate, which is 6.4 then.
Ah,
Yeah. Um, the diagram shows an individual supply of labor curve. He is offered a job which would require him to work a standard, okay, so 40-hour week. Which area measures the lowest amount he would have to be paid per week to get him to accept this job offer? So you're just looking at his reservation price, his supply price, his transfer earnings, which is Y plus X. What relationship does the firm's long run production function describe? The firm's output and quantities of factors inputs employed? Well, I think that's fine, but let's read the other options, because production function does normally look at output and then something like the capital to labor ratio, so like inputs on one side. Anyhow, so the firm's long run average cost, no, it doesn't look at cost, so you can just cross those out. It doesn't look at prices of factor inputs either, so you're just left with A, and that was fine anyways. 8. The table shows the firm's total and marginal costs. What is the average fixed cost of producing 6 units? Oh my god, these questions repeat like anything. Uh, anyways, so the idea here is, look at when output is 1, the marginal cost, that is the cost of producing, or the additional cost would be when you went from 0 to 1 basically. So the cost of doing this was $40, and the total cost here was 340, which means if you want to go back to where output was 0, you just go 340 minus 40, giving you fixed cost of 300. um, Let me explain this in another way, because think about this. So when output is 0, the only cost you will have, total cost, would be equals to fixed cost, because variable cost only happens when you increase output. When output is 0, you only have fixed cost. We know to produce one output, the cost it took you was 40, because you went from 0 output to 1 output. The additional cost was 40. So you just subtract that from 340, you get 300 as your fixed cost, as your total fixed cost, because fixed cost will not vary depending on output. And and then you want to figure out your average fixed cost, which is just you divide this by quantity, which is 6, which gives you 50. So you're good. 9. A firm experiences external diseconomies of scale and decreasing returns to scale. How would these changes be illustrated on a cost curve diagram? So, okay. So you're with diseconomies of scale, I believe you're just producing somewhere here. So like on the upward scale, so movement along long run average cost curve. So there's a movement upwards. If
ये equity होना चाहिए.
yeah, because upward signifies like this is going to be your cost, right? This is output. This is your long run average cost curve. Excuse the bad handwriting. But upwards indicates how average cost is increasing. Downwards would indicate that average cost is decreasing. That would be economies, not diseconomies. So upwards and shift in long run average cost curve. So if you think about this, if you look at decreasing returns to scale, um, now decreasing returns to scale means that as you increase your all your inputs by a certain proportion, let's say by this much, and your output increases by less, which mainly means that the level of average cost that you can attain aren't as low as they can as they were before. So the average cost in a way increases because, well, now to get the same level of output you'd have to increase proportions by your inputs by a lot more, and obviously your inputs incur a cost on you. So something like this, then this is your LRAC, this is your, let's say, your LRAC1, because it shows that costs have increased. Would you agree with that?
Hmm.
Anyhow, the diagram shows a demand curve for the firm's product, which diagram depicts the shape of a firm's corresponding TR curve. And if you look at this, so what you should know from your AS that this was your elastic region, this was your inelastic region, this was where this was your unit elastic, or where elasticity was unity basically, where it was equals to 1. And your elastic region, if you decrease price you maximize total revenue because quantity increases by a lot more. And your inelastic region, because quantity isn't going to fluctuate that much, you want to increase price. um, and in this case this is the point where total revenue was maximized. So as you increase quantity, as you go from left to right, remember increasing quantity is kind of like decreasing price, because as you increase quantity, price falls. So what we're basically saying, what happens to total revenue as price falls. So if you're looking at price falls, you're looking at like this. In the elastic region, a price fall would increase total revenue. So you need something like this, something like this, something like this. However, when you reach unity, it should be maximized. So you need something like this. And when you go to this particular area, a price fall in the inelastic region would just decrease total revenue. So that's what C shows you. That's Would you like want to add something to this, or is this explanation fine?
It makes sense.
Okay, so that's it for these 10 questions. Let us quickly check our answers. Okay, so these 10 MCQs were fine. We got all of them correct. I'd just like to offer another explanation for question 10. Maybe this one would be more A2 related and just easier to understand because it's still fresh in your mind. So your demand curve is your average revenue curve. You know that. And you know that your marginal revenue curve falls something like this, MR curve. You know, this particular point is where total revenue is maximized because that's where MR is equal to 0. So as you see, as you increase quantity, what happens is your total revenue increases at a decreasing rate because marginal falls, which is clearly what's happening here. Then at a certain point, marginal MR is equals to 0. There, your total revenue is maximized. Then MR goes to negative, and when MR goes to negative, then your total revenue decreases, which is exactly what's shown here. So that could be another way to do this question. But that's it for this video. We'll continue this in the next one.